Freedom Trail is a 2.5-mile road passes along 16 historic positions, from Boston Latin School to Pearl Revere House, from Faneuil Hall to Bunker Hill Monument. The sites tell us the story of the heroes and events in the American Revolution. So, let us tell you the story.
This is Boston Common, the oldest public park to this day. The land is 30 acres and homeowners need to pay a fee of £30 to live on this land. Puritans used this land in forms of punishment towards pirates, witches, and murderers in forms of execution. Boston Common was founded in 1634.
Puritan settlers arrived in 1630 and grazed their cows on Boston Common, a practice that continued for the next 200 years. During the evening of April 18, 1775, about 800 redcoats assembled in Boston Common to begin a mission to seize weapons hidden by the patriots in Concord. Their departure from the Common triggered Pearl Revere's famous ride across the countryside, and the next day, the American Revolution officially began.
Massachusetts State House. The Massachusetts State House is the state capital and place of government for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The building was designed by Charles Bulfinch and built in 1798 and is recognized as a National Historic Landmark because of its historical significance.
This is Parkside Church. It's the tallest building in the Boston until 1867. Park Street Church was founded in 1809. It was once the first landmark travelers saw when approaching Boston. Its lofty architecture reflects an even loftier mission of human rights and social justice. The church was founded by 26 Christians. Most of them were former members of the Old South Church. It was built in less than a year, including tearing down the old granary building. The Sunday service was a serious business in early days. In 1688, a non-Puritan church was built in downtown Boston.
King's Chapel is an independent Christian Unitarian congregation associated with the Unitarian Universalist Association. It is located on the corner of Tremont and School Street. It was designed by architect Peter Harrison, and its construction was completed in 1754. In 1960, it was branded as a National Historic Landmark for its historical significance.
King's Chapel, founded almost 260 years ago in 1686. The King's Chapel was originally a wooden church built above a burial ground. Now the King's Chapel has gone over some construction. King's Chapel is considered to be one of the most important buildings in all of North America.
King's Chapel Burial Ground is the cemetery connected to King's Chapel. It is the oldest cemetery in Boston, having been founded in 1630. It was Boston's only burial ground for 30 years.
A lot of famous people were buried here. John Winslow, once an English Puritan lawyer, founded the Massachusetts Bay Colony. He led the first large wave of immigrants from England in 1630 and served as the governor for 12 years. He South-dominated New England colonial development and influenced the governance and religions of other colonies. Mary Chelton, one of 11 minor girls on the Mayflower, was the first woman to step off the boat.
King's Chapel Burial Ground.
The burial ground was originally part of Boston Common, which then encompassed the entire block. It is the third oldest cemetery in Boston. This burial ground was established because the King's Chapel burial ground had no more space. As many as 5,000 people were buried here, including Paul Revere, the 5 victims in Boston Massacre, 3 signers of the Declaration of Independence, Samuel Adams, John Hancock, and Robert Paine. In the middle of the site, there is an obelisk erected to the parents and relatives of Benjamin Franklin. Named after William Cupp, Cupp's Hill Burying Ground is the final resting place of merchants, artisans, and craftspeople who lived in North End. This is Cupp's Hill Burying Ground. It's named by William Cupp, who is a shoemaker. And this place overlooks the harbor. And the English army actually used the gravestones as a target practice. So you can see the small holes on the stones. Cupp's Hill Burial Ground is the largest burial ground in Boston. It was established in 1659. During the Revolution, its important location gave it strategic military importance. As its southwest, the British established their North Battery and earthworks, a direct shoring of Bunker Hill and the children of Charlestown. It is the final resting place of over 10,000 people. The prominent minstrel family were buried in the master tomb. Robert Newman, the man placed lanterns at the church on the eve of Pearl Revere's ride, was also buried here. By the time of Revolution War, more than 1,000 free blacks and slaves were buried here. Benjamin Franklin was born in Boston in 1706. He is known as the founding father of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. He is also a diplomat, an inventor, a writer, and a scientist. He negotiated the 1783 Treaty of Paris, which is the end of the Revolution War.
This is Boston Latin School. A lot of famous people graduated from here, and Benjamin Franklin is a famous dropout from this school.
The Old South Meeting House is a historical church building in Boston, built in 1729. It gained its fame as an organization point for the Boston Tea Party on December 16, 1773. 5,000 or more colonists gathered at the Meeting House, the largest building in Boston at the time.
After British government established a special tax on tea imported to colony, while there was no duty for East India Company, people in the colony demanded that the tea should be returned. On December 16, 1773, 5,000 colonists crowded into the Old South Meeting House to decide what was to be done with the tea. At that night, 342 chests of tea was dumped into the sea.
Okay, this is Old State House. It's originally built as a multi-purpose building. It's the city's oldest building, surviving public building right now. And it's originally called the townhouse, but then a big fire burned the townhouse, and after that, the Old State building was built.
At the center of the civic, political, and business life, the Old State House was a natural meeting place for the exchange of economic and local news. A merchants' exchange occupied the first floor, and John Hancock and the others rented warehouse space in the basement.
This is the site of Boston Massacre. Almost 250 years ago, an important incident in American Revolution happened here. After the Tea Act, the Stamp Act, people were not satisfied with the new Townshend Act. Bostonians also saw a big provocation in the action of more British troops moving into the city. On March 5th, a mob surrounded a British sentry because of his verbal abuse. Several British soldiers then fired without orders. They hurt 6 people and killed 5 civilians. In order to eliminate the anger among people, the troops were withdrawn out of the city. However, the citizens were not satisfied with the judgment on the British soldiers. The hostility was growing among them. People also used this incident to propagate the revolution, which was officially happened 5 years later. Faneuil Hall is known as the home of free speech and the cradle of liberty. Faneuil Hall was a large market building that served as a meeting place for patriots on the eve of American Revolution. Meetings to discuss the Stamp Act, the Boston Massacre, the tea crisis with Britain were held at Faneuil Hall between 1764 and 1775.
This is the Faneuil Hall, previously located near the waterfront and today's Governor's Center in Boston, Massachusetts. The Faneuil Hall has been the marketplace and meeting hall since 1743. It was the site of several speeches by Samuel Adams, James Otis, and others encouraging independence from Great Britain.
On April 18, 1775, when Paul Revere got the message that the troops were marching in the boat to Concord, he asked Robert Newman to hang 2 lanterns on the Old North Church to give them an alert. Built in 1723, Christ Church in the city of Boston, known to all as the Old North Church, is Boston's oldest surviving church building and most visited historical site. Its 191-foot steeple is tall enough for the people in Concord to see. Paul Revere was a prominent silversmith. He also helped organize an intelligence and alarm system to keep watch on British military. Revere served as a Massachusetts military officer and then became the silversmith again.
The Paul Revere's house, built in 1680, was the colonial home of the American patriot Paul Revere during the time of the American Revolution. The Battle of the Bunker Hill was fought on June 17, 1775, during the siege of Boston in the early stages of the American Revolutionary War. The battle is named after Bunker Hill in Charlestown, Massachusetts, which was peripherally involved in the battle. It was the original objective of both the colonial and British troops, though the majority of the combat took place on the adjacent Breed's Hill.